That may be one of the worst games I've watched in my entire life. Yes, we won, and that's great. Glad Auburn won. I did not want them to lose, but at the same time, that was absolutely pathetic. And this is all on the coaches. I don't even want anybody blaming the players for this. This is all on Coach Harsin. This is all on the entire coaching staff. That was just a pathetic performance overall. And I don't mean that as a slight on the players. I completely mean this towards the coaches when I'm saying any criticism in this particular video. We scored 14 points right away, got up 14-0, and then somehow made it to overtime. Overtime. We went like 3 quarters with no points. Went into overtime versus Mizzou. And the only reason we were fortunate enough to make it in overtime is because their kicker, who thought he didn't have to kick a warm-up kick, shanked the kick. He just completely missed it. So Mizzou was nice enough to let us go into overtime because realistically, they should have won that game. There is no reason we should have made it to overtime. And it's almost like Drinkwitz was doing every single thing he could to help Auburn win. And once again, I'm glad we won. But this was not a win that Harsin deserved. He did not earn this win. We had some very good play in the first quarter, and that was it. That was really it. The rest of the game, we got dominated by Mizzou, and then in the second half, nobody did anything. It was just a punt every single drive. The team who had the ball punted, so that was one of the most boring halves of football I've ever watched in my life. And then we were fortunate enough to go into overtime, and the only reason we won the game was because Mizzou kept messing up. When we had the ball first in overtime, Anders, who apparently is just trying to miss I don't know what's up with Anders. I will be critical of him. He was awful. His kicking ability has been off this season, and we saw that. So I will be critical of his kicking because it was terrible. He missed a kick, and luckily for him, they jumped off sides because he got to kick it again, and then he made it. So that jumping off sides, that was one way Mizzou helped us. The missing the kick before overtime, that was a second way that Mizzou helped us win. And then the final way that Mizzou just completely threw this ball game away was when they were going to the end zone about to score a touchdown, and the guy who had the ball swapped hands, and because he swapped hands, he actually dropped the ball before he crossed the plane, which turned it into a touchback, which means Auburn had the ball and Auburn won. Once again, very glad we won the game, but it was the most pathetic win that I've seen in a very, very long time. And after last week, when I watched last week's game versus Penn State, I was very disappointed. There was a lot that could have gone better. There's a lot we could have done different. But I was trying to give Harsin the benefit of the doubt. There was a lot of people who wrote him off last week. I was still trying to do my best to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, guys, it's one game, it's one loss. It was a bad loss. Don't get me wrong. Terrible loss, but it was one loss. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. It's not even SEC play. And I was trying to look past that loss, even though it looked pretty bleak. And then we get to the Mizzou game. And I thought to myself, if we can have a convincing win versus Mizzou, yes, they're pretty terrible. They lost to, Kansas State, pretty poorly. It was a pretty bad game. And if we can at least have a convincing win versus Mizzou, it's something. It's not great, but it's something. It would be a good lead up to the LSU game. I was not expecting an overtime victory versus a terrible Mizzou team. I had no idea that was going to happen. I don't think anybody knew that was going to happen. And just to be honest, it was the most painful game to watch. I think it might have been more painful than the Penn State game. Some of you may disagree with me on that one. This game felt more painful because at least Penn State was a good team. Mizzou's not. There's nothing you can really point to show that Mizzou is a good team. And so for us to struggle that much, for them to figure out our offense that quickly, and for us to be that one-dimensional of a team, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal the entire rest of this season. Look at who we have left to play. We've not even played a road game yet. We struggled to win against Mizzou at home in our home stadium. It's supposed to be a difficult place to play. And we've seen 2 weeks in a row, it's not. It's not what it used to be. Or at least it's not this season. And that has to change. And I'm now jumping on the bandwagon. I'm now of the belief that the only way we change things is to get rid of Harsin. I was trying to hold out. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And at this point, I don't see a way forward that involves Brian Harsin. I don't. And I don't know how anybody can at this point. And if you think this is good football, this is good Auburn football, I don't know what you're watching. Because what I'm watching has been just pathetic. The play calling has been atrocious. You have Robbie Ashford in the game. You know what his strengths are. You're not even calling plays to his strength. I don't know what we're doing. And if we're going to salvage this season, we've got to make some changes quickly, and I don't know that we can. But they've got to adjust their play calling. They've got to adjust a lot. We have Tate Johnson. I don't know if I didn't even pay attention if he ended up in the game at the end. But, Tate Johnson was hurt. I can't remember if he ended up in the game or not. That's how frustrated I was. But our offensive line, regardless with or without Tate, is not doing well. They're letting so much pressure get to the quarterbacks that they don't have a whole lot of time to make decisions. And so knowing what Robbie Ashford's style is, they've got to adjust their game plan. And I don't know that they're going to be able to adjust their game plan enough to, one, beat LSU at home, but two, the week after that in week 6, when we go to Athens, it's going to be a joke. It's going to be an absolute joke. We don't stand a chance. We haven't won in Athens in I can't tell you how long. And this is not going to be the team to do it, and certainly not under Coach Harsin. I don't even have the stats in front of me because I don't want to look at them. I'm not even going to look at them today because it was such a frustrating game. But I think the overall takeaway is that we showed a spark at the beginning, but what we saw the other 3 quarters, that's who we are. That is who we are, and that is the fault of Coach Harsin and his coaching staff. And so if this is what we want to continue like the rest of the season, then we just need to stick with Coach Harsin. If we want to move on and possibly get better, then I don't even care that we won. I'm jumping on the bandwagon, and it's time to fire Harsin. So go ahead and get it over with. Fire Coach Harsin, and let's move on and be better. War Eagle.